Okay, welcome to Maths with El Profe Lo. We've been using some prime factorization to find the greatest common denominator and least common multiple for each pair of integers. We've done a couple of examples, and now we're left with our last example here with 267 and 1121. All right, so I'm going to come over, use my computer to find the factorization of 267. And we find that that factorization of 267 is 3 times 89. That's not easy to read, so we'll rewrite that 3 times 89. And for 1121, we can come over here, 1121. And that is that this is 19 times 59. Well, what does that tell us? That tells us, right, that 267 and 1121 are relatively prime, right, that their greatest common divisor is 1, and that's because none of the divisors are shared between the two numbers. So the greatest common divisor is 1, okay? If I want the least common multiple, that's going to be equal to the product of each of these, which would be, all right, let's come in, double check with our technology, 3 times 89 times 19 times 59. So that gives us 299,307. Okay, so pretty straightforward, right? And after going through these examples, we get to these important theorems, and that is that if A and B are positive integers, then the product of my greatest common divisor times my least common multiple is equal to the product of my integers, right? So in other words, my greatest common divisor times my least common multiple is going to be equal to the product of my two integers, okay? And the corollary, which we see in this piece right here, the corollary would be that the least common multiple is that product if we have co-prime or these relatively prime integers. So let's just check that out for each of our examples, right? Let's just check that out. Okay, so here, we'll clear this right here, and we'll say, what's 267 times 1121? We see that that's 29,307, which is this piece, right? And that would be known to be true because we're relatively prime, right? If we come to the one just above, 25 times 5850, right? That's 146,250. And if I say 450 times 325, notice that I get the same number, right? That yes, if I'm taking the smallest powers for the greatest common divisor, and I'm taking the largest powers for the least common multiple, when I multiply those two together, now I've considered all of the powers. So of course, that's what you would have. Then we can look at this last one, right? We'll say, what is 12 times 1512, excuse me, 12 times 1512, right? That might be a little tough to see, but we see that it's 18,144. And then we can say, well, what's 108 times 168? We see that same thing. So prime factorization and really number theory really does help simplify a lot of the mathematics, right? As you get to more advanced levels of mathematics, you're finding connections that help to simplify your work. And so all of a sudden, finding these greatest common divisors and least common multiples is a much, much simpler approach. And of course, we can find the product and have a check to our answers that if this greatest common divisor times this least common multiple is equal to the product of my two integers. And of course, that least common multiple will be the product if my integers are relatively prime. Okay. This has been Maths with El Profe Lo. As always, if you have a question, please reach out.